listening to No Retreat, hosted by Cheryl Ann, produced by Scott Douglas. Today on No Retreat, our guest is Jeff Yuna, Republican primary candidate for U.S. Representative of Texas Congressional District 38. Welcome to the program, Jeff. Why don't you take a few moments and tell us a little bit about yourself. Introduce yourself to the audience.
First, Cheryl, thank you so much for having me. I mean, I'm really grateful for what you're doing and to get to connect with your listeners. Again, my name's Jeff Yuna. Like you said, I'm a sixth-generation Texan, so my Texas roots are really deep. My 5X great-grandfather fought in the Battle of San Jacinto, and if you're not from Texas, the Battle of San Jacinto is where Anna was defeated by Sam Houston, and the Great Republic of Texas was formed. So my heritage and my love of Texas and America, that's a big factor of who I am and what drives me into politics. I'm also a Christian, a licensed minister. I've written a couple books. One's God Heals, and the other one is God Speaks. I'm happily married to my smoking hot wife and soulmate. She's a teacher, been doing that for 30 years. Father of 4 adult children and grandfather of 5 incredible grandkids. We don't need nuclear energy. If we could just bundle the energy of those grandkids, we could power the world.
Agreed.
Yeah. Professionally, I'm a proven entrepreneur. I started mowing lawns at 12. I currently own Tomball Pawn and Jewelry, which is one of Texas' largest firearms dealers. I bought that business 12 years ago with my dad. He's now 80. It was kind of just, I'm about family, just spending time with my dad in his glory years, and then, having a business that could pay the bills. So, but between mowing yards and the pawn shop, I've built businesses in multiple industries. It's taught me a lot. The American dream is not realized without true grit. I'm a lifelong learner. I read constantly. Love to study physics, explore big ideas. I actually been writing laws and putting them to my oldest daughter and my middle daughter and her son-in-law are both attorneys. And so I like to write laws to try to fix things and then argue with them about it and constitutionality and things of that nature. But at my core, I really am just a conservative Texan. My values are faith, family, freedom, hard work. My campaign tagline is "Your freedom, my fight," because I've seen government overreach hurt everyday Texans. I'm running for Congress in the 38 to fight for freedoms every single day. Freedoms from government overreach, freedom to keep what we have, what we've earned, and freedom to own our property without the threat of the government taking it away. And that's who I am in a nutshell. It's hard, 60 years is a lot of time to try to put into a few minutes, but that's me in a nutshell.
Well, how do you think that some of these experiences you've had, how do you think that those will shape your ability to serve the people of the district?
Well, I'm 60 years old, so that in and of itself has a lot of experience. And like I said, I've been working since I was 12, so I have a lot of experience in starting and running businesses that make me uniquely equipped to serve. These experiences are very broad from the industries that I've been in, and particularly like when you compare with other candidates in the race. So as a small business owner for decades, I battled regulation, high taxes, the economic pressures to small business owners. Don't get me wrong, but most of those on franchises, so they didn't get the experience, the bureaucratic pain and red tape to start from scratch. When you buy a franchise, you pay somebody some money and the corporation takes care of all the details and regulatory compliance and things of that nature. For example, right before I bought the pawn shop, I owned a mortgage company. It was a franchise. And just so happens one of the other candidates has a mortgage franchise. I haven't heard him talk about Dodd-Frank, but when I go to Congress, somebody needs to do something about Dodd-Frank and repealing it because it really, really hurt the small mortgage companies and the small mortgage brokers. by creating this just incredible pile of red tape that's costing homeowners more because their mortgages are costing more because only the big banks can comply. Another company I had was Drone Systems International. So we have another candidate that has a pilot's license. Well, I have a pilot's license for drones, but my business, Drone Systems International, we trained and created drone programs for companies like Shell in Deer Park, Texas. And then we also did a lot of training for multiple divisions of law enforcement, auto theft, and Vice, and some other divisions down here in the area. Not trying to pick on my opponents, but one of them served on the school board for years. And like I said earlier, my wife has been teaching for 30 years, and she's certified in every single subject. Which let me deviate here because there was a big move to eliminate the Department of Education, and now it looks like it's going to be refunded. And what I'm seeing in current news, if I go to Congress and they're going to continue to fund the Department of Education and we can't stop that, I would at least like to see those monies start going to the teachers to equalize pay amongst teachers from the states versus facilities or training or something where the majority of the dollars don't really benefit the teacher or the student. They go to the big corporations that are capitalizing on that. In Texas, the teachers are the 28th paid in the state. They make $9,000 less than the average teacher in the U.S., and their pension is 50 out of 51.
Wow.
But, so I have some kind of unique experience there, and it gives me a different perception or perspective regarding one of my opponents who, like I said, was on the school board and never seen a tax dollar he couldn't spend. Their superintendent's the third highest paid in Texas. The lady makes $470,000 a year, which is double the superintendent pay of any district that size. So I'm not going to go up there and waste money. It needs to be. We need to have fiscal responsibility to the max, and that's one of my big pet peeves. As I said, I'm a native Texan. That gives me a unique perspective. Texas, we say yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. We have one opponent's a dual citizen, one opponent's a naturalized citizen, and I just don't think that I don't think naturalized and dual citizens have the cultural perspective that native-born Americans have. They're saying you can take the person out of the trailer park, but you can't take the trailer park out of the person. And I think that when we have people that are running that have been naturalized or dual citizens when their formative years were created in a different culture, I don't think it ends up being the best for the American culture, but that's just my perspective. My experience is hard. Unlike one of the establishment candidates, that his father-in-law is probably a billionaire, runs a $218 billion investment firm, and was the chief campaign finance officer for Ted Cruz's campaign, raised $50 million. So he's got plenty of money coming into his campaign, and don't really see in his background or bio where hard work was ever part of it, or even in business. We learned that the money goes two directions. Your revenues can go up and your revenues can go down. But in politics, just taxes just keep going up and up. And folks don't really have to consider the negative to the taxpayer or to the economy or anything else. There's a couple candidates, too, that have military backgrounds. One a non-combat. I did not serve in the military, but I did receive an award from the Department of Defense as a patriotic employer. We had an employee that's very high level reservist, and he would continue to go to quote unquote training, but never could tell us where that training was. But every time he came back, he had his job. Matter of fact, he was back in the shop a couple of days ago, and guess where he'd been? Venezuela. Mm-hmm. So he was on the ground in Venezuela before the Delta Force was there. I have a big passion for veterans, a big passion for law enforcement. I support a lot of charities in that area. PTSD Foundation of America is one of our big charities that we support. But I do, and I have friends that are wounded veterans. I have multiple friends that are 100% disabled. So I kind of see firsthand the struggles that veterans face and hear about their problems with the VA. On the campaign trail, my experience as a pawn shop owner has drawn some negativity. But I want to say that we're a gun store disguised as a pawn shop. Pawning is not our primary business. It's 80% firearm sales, and the store combined has sold probably 700,000 firearms in the area, and we have nearly 70,000 customers in the district. So that was another factor in the number of customers that I have in the district and their support and our 4.8 stars on Google and they're knowing me. So also being a gun store owner, my Second Amendment's ironclad. That goes without saying. But the pawn shop is another reason why, in my experience there, is a big reason why I'm running, because I see families come and pawn precious family heirlooms or grandpa's guns or you name it to pay bills during tough times. So I see the inflation of the debt crushing hardworking Texans. Our pawn balance just this month went up like 10 or 15% because people are trying to pay their property taxes. And I never really understood the middle class like I do now. I actually consult a New York bank once a month that's a billionaire hedge fund that I have NDA, can't disclose it. And they're always asking me demographics. And I was always kind of semi-guessing lower class, middle class, upper class. But that relationship made me research it more. And the middle class in America right now is 60,000 to 160,000 a year, with 160,000 being upper class. Well, my little business, 59% of my loans, my customers are households making over 100,000 a year. I mean, I'm sitting here watching every day the middle class just being destroyed. And you look at credit card debt that's gone from 800 billion when Trump left office to over 1.4 trillion when he came back. Just the middle class putting inflation on credit cards, and it's horrible. That drives me to fight for lower taxes and less red tape. You know, inflation is, I always said 90% national debt, 10% bureaucratic nonsense or red tape. It's probably 50-50, but regardless, both need to be dealt with. The national debt needs to be brought down, and the red tape needs to go away to help the middle class. So the other thing about my experience that I think is important, I hope the voters think so too, is that every business I started because I perceived a problem. You know, I started a tank cleaning company because the competitors were basically ripping off their customers. We started the drone training business because there was no drone training companies at the time. And so having businesses from nothing to solve problems, it's taught me a lot of lessons, and it's taught me given me a lot of valuable experience to be a congressman. Like I said earlier, you know, a big lesson is income goes two directions. It can go up as fast as it can go down. You know, politicians never experience this. Their taxes are always going up. You know, owning a business teaches you the need for fiscal responsibility. It teaches you that you don't spend everything that comes in, because tomorrow you may be short. And so that experience right there in solving problems is one thing that I think will benefit tremendously, and the voters to elect me to Congress. The other thing is we can't trust the media anymore. You can't even trust science. They said trust the science. You can't trust science. And we've never been able to trust a politician. But I'm not a politician. I don't have millions of dollars pouring into my campaign from, you know, establishment and donors. And I have experience doing more with less. I've proven experience telling the truth even when it hurts me. These experiences combine and allow me to go to Congress for the people to cut wasteful spending and hold politicians accountable. My experience as a Christian and a licensed minister, that guides me my compassion and service, especially protecting things like patient doctor rights from government interference. My faith, that same Christianity, means that charity is a responsibility of the church and the individual, not the government handing out endless grants that are probably being, stolen from and kicked back and everything else. My Bible says that we're to be a lender, not a borrower, yet the country's in $38 trillion in debt. We should have been loaning Ukraine money with some type of collateral accountability if that's what we wanted to do for Ukraine. But we've got just giving away money. And then, as a 60-year-old native Texan that's lived my entire life, I know our issues inside and out. I know them from border security to profits. But to go up there and right the wrongs and stand up to Democrats and even weak Republicans, it's going to require a struggle and fighting battles when it's necessary. My life's experiences have made me for this. So in Congress, I said, "Your freedom, my fights," my tagline. That means I'm going to fight for you. I'm going to fight for the voter. I'm going to fight for the constituents, and I'm going to fight for the people in Texas 38. I'll introduce bills like my doctor-patient relationship protection act to safeguard medical freedoms, and I'm going to push for term limits to end career politicians. I'm going to submit the 28th Amendment to ban property taxes on homesteads. And even if that amendment fails to ban property taxes, it'll hopefully start a movement that brings homestead security to America. We have Social Security, but we don't have homestead security. And if you ever read the Federalist Papers, it's all throughout there. The intent of our founding fathers was that we would own our property fee simple. They didn't intend it to be able to be taken away with taxes or property taxes or anything of that nature. They came over from England owning nothing. The whole purpose from them coming to America was to own property. So that's part of my fight. And I'm going to fight. I'm going to call out the rhinos and the established fact candidates who take the big money and ignore Texas and conservative values. I will name names, and if they stand in the way of border security or fiscal responsibility or real freedom, because that's what the voters deserve. They deserve accountability and no excuses.
I agree with that 100%. We have a dearth of accountability in the United States of America in all aspects of our lives.
It's terrible.
It's just it's irresponsibility run amok is what we actually have. So what would you say are some of your top goals for your administration?
Well, my top priorities are America first and securing our border and restoring freedoms for Texans and Americans. Because, like I said, your freedom, my fight, it's not just a slogan, it's a commitment. But this term that I'll be serving will be the last 2 years of the Trump administration. So I guess one of the first things that I'm doing a pretty good job of is codifying Trump's executive orders into law. Number two, border security and immigration. It's going the right direction, and it's going, as Trump would say, warp speed. But we have to finish the wall. We have to deport the illegals. We have to defund the sanctuary cities. But we really, really have to stop benefits to the illegal aliens that's just drawing them over the border. The 38th district where I am includes Houston, and it's a trafficking and cartel crime and human trafficking capital of the world. So it probably needs some help. I'd like to see funds redirected from wasteful NGOs to support ICE in this area, but also maybe redirect funds or resources like equipment to law enforcement in the area. Third, crushing inflation and our $38 trillion debt. We've got to have massive spending cuts and support of Trump's pro-growth policies. there is a possibility that we can grow our way out of this and solve the $8 trillion in debt by restoring the middle class and bringing back high-paying jobs. The tax basis will go up based off that and help with the debt. But no more foreign aid to hostile nations while Texans and Americans struggle. Well, we got to call these politicians out for their pork barrel spending. And like we said earlier, demand accountability. The big priority is the property tax reform. I mentioned it, the 28th Amendment earlier. That'll push Homestead Security Amendment, the constitutional ban of ad valorem taxes on homesteads. Families deserve to keep their homes without government overreach. Families to own a home and not have to rent it from the government. Other priorities are term limits, independence, particularly using Texas resources, protecting the Second Amendment, medical freedoms like pulling unsafe COVID shots. Do you know that there's a Supreme Court back in 1905, I believe it was, and it may have been Kentucky. It's slipping my mind. But it set the precedence for government to be able to force vaccines. It was related to the smallpox. That same smallpox vaccine is banned in every country but ours. And so that case was probably wrong. I have some tricks up my sleeve to get around that. But I've signed pledges regarding it. I've signed pledges for conservative values and fighting the establishment who block these priorities. And that's, it's freedoms and liberties. Every turn is going to be my priority. But practically speaking, because we can talk all we want, I think practically as a congressman, we'll introduce targeted bills. I will participate and hold hearings, and I will publicly call out any politician by name who stands in the way of our freedoms. And together we can make Texas 38 and America stronger through faith, family, and fiscal responsibility and electing me to Congress.
Well, I like that platform. I like that. Faith, family, and freedom, and fiscal responsibility, all of that. We hear more and more conservative Americans like yourself who are not politicians, who are business people, educators, etc., just stepping up to the plate to run in their districts. And it's really good to talk to you about that today. Also, I want to give you a chance as we begin to wrap kind of our session up. Let the people know where they can connect with you online or social media, etc., to find out more, to volunteer, to donate, etc., and then remind them of when the election is, please.
Okay. The best place to connect is my website, jeffyuna4texas.com, JEFFYUNA for Texas.com. It has everything on there. A lot of candidates use WinRed. I'm not using WinRed for donations because they may be the next Act Blue. Looks like there's some signs of some hanky-panky going on there. But my website can handle all the donations are secure. I'm on X too. Jeff Yuna for TX, I believe, Jeff Yuna for TX. And my email is jeffyuna4tx@gmail.com. And people are welcome to call me. I give the number out all the time, 281-866-9996, 281-866-9996. That goes straight to my phone. The primary is March 3rd. Early voting starts February 17th. In the event that there's a runoff, most likely there will be. That follows on May 26th, with the election being November 3rd.
And how does that work if no candidate gets 50% or more? Or how does it work?
Correct. So if no candidate gets 50%, then the top go
the top
on
how
to
many?
The runoff. Top two.
Oh, okay.
So it could be, you could have somebody at 49 and somebody at 36 and somebody at 35. It's 49 and 36 that are going to go forward. And based on our polling right now, I'm pretty much guaranteed a spot in that runoff. We were polling in like a little over 50%, but now everybody else's campaigns are coming online, and since there's 10 of us running, it's dropped into the mid to high 40s as far as support level. Come down to turnout. People they've got to vote. Republicans have got to vote, and they don't do it. And I don't know what it's going to take to get them out and voting, but we need the votes, and people need to go vote on March 3rd or early. I always vote at the earliest chance I can. So we really need that as a party and specifically as an individual candidate.
Yes, because Democrats have traditionally, all over the country, they have traditionally been the ones that flood the early voting. And so we need to begin to use that strategy as well, right? To get people out to vote, no matter when. Because people can always have a problem arise on the day of, right? And it just happens, especially because a lot of conservatives work. We work full-time jobs, things happen, right? So we should be encouraging the constituents to get out there during early voting. And I always say that you should go, right? I'm going to vote, and I'm going to take 2 with me or take 3 with me. You know, me plus 3 was what I was saying the whole time during Trump's campaign. Me plus 3. Because you can fit 4 people in your car. So me plus 3.
Amen.
Right?
Amen. And in Harris County, you do not have to vote at your precinct. In Harris County, you can vote at any precinct. So there's really no excuse that you couldn't get there. If you live in Katy and work downtown, well, you can vote in a downtown precinct or anywhere in between during the early. I believe that extends into the March 3rd. I think they changed it all the way around. So they've taken away the excuses. We just need to cure the apathy. But can I say this too?
Yeah.
You know, every candidate, whether it's me or anybody, of course, money's the easy thing to ask for, because then they can go buy people to knock on doors. They can spend the 74 cents or 68 cents per mailer. You know, that's why campaigns have gotten so expensive. Is from a lack of volunteers. We need volunteers to go knock on doors, put door hangers, make phone calls. There's a lot that can be done to motivate the voter and to get the message out. So I really would love to see Republicans start volunteering more. I talked to the precinct chair the other day and said, I've got a lot of support in your precinct. Can you have anybody that that will block walk, that gets fired up and can go block walk with me? And she says, no. Wow. I did not expect, I expected, well, they're like this candidate. No, I don't have any.
I think you should go immediately to tpusa.com and find a Turning Point, local chapter and see if they have somebody that'll, help you.
That is a great idea.
Because that's kind of what they do, right? So right. I think you should find a local chapter of TPUSA, and you've got universities in your district, so and colleges, so you've probably got several chapters in your district. And see if you can find somebody that's not aligned with one of the others, right? That will help. Correct. That will help your team.
That's great advice. I really, really appreciate that.
Hey, it's what it. My dad always says the advice is worth what you pay for it. So you didn't pay anything, and
Yeah, that and $10 will get me a cup of coffee.
It will. That and $10. Yep, used to be that and that and 2 bits, but no, it's $10 now. So, well, thank you so much, Jeff. I really appreciate you spending time with us today, and we really look forward to hearing more from you in the future.
Thank you for your time, and thank you for what you're doing in trying to get conservative candidates' voices out, and that's a mission. That's a godsend, and I just thank you for doing what you do.
Hey, God bless. You have a wonderful day. We'll talk soon.
You too.
Thanks.
Yes, ma'am.
Bye. You've been listening to No Retreat. Guest, Jeff, Yuna. And as always, everyone, be blessed and be a blessing. Thank you.